All right, Gearheads, welcome to our post-race show. 1:30 in Austin, Texas, 2:30 Eastern, and you're still with us. Thank you for joining us. We watched actually a pretty incredible season opener in Australia. Jonathan, what'd you think, man?
I'm not sure if I'm still with us, but...
All right, I usually come to you for a quick recap. Can you recap it for me in 60 seconds?
Yes, not a problem. Hadjar crashed, the race started, the rain came... Verstappen looked good. It looked like a 1-2 for McLaren. Then it wasn't because Piastri threw it in the grass. And then Hamilton started getting closer. And in the end, it was Norris.
Okay, that's a pretty good effort, all things considered. But my gosh, think about this, right? 57 laps, over 2 hours, 6 DNFs, and what? 5 pit stops by every team.
Wow.
Dozens of spins and crashes. And Lando beats Max by half a second after all of that.
After all of that. I have to say, if you were new to Formula One and didn't know how this all worked and, how good these guys are, you just got an example. Martin Brundle was effusing about how good they are, and Martin was one of the greats.
Yeah.
So, you saw top draw driving today in absolutely ice skating conditions. It doesn't get any better than that. If you're a purist, you can't have not enjoyed that.
Yeah. Bob, Varsha, what do you think?
Yes, sir. Well, the last 12 laps of the race kind of reminded me of a college basketball game when there's 2 minutes to play, but it takes 15 minutes to get there with all the timeouts and commercials and interruptions and what have you. But it was pretty entertaining stuff, I have to say. As Jonathan mentioned, cars flying off here and there, crashes, rain, no rain, rain again. It was
Dogs
on
and
top
cats.
of it all, I guess, is, as JG said, lots of great driving. For those who survived it, of the 6 cars that fell out, 4 of them were 4 of the 6 full-time rookies making their debut in this race. So
yeah.
I guess that's probably somewhat predictable. Carlos Sainz is a terrific driver. He crashed out, and that tells you something. Fernando Alonso, another great driver, couldn't keep it on the island, So there was all kinds of action. As you said, 5 pit stops per team, all kinds of tire decisions being made on the fly. Go back onto the wets, get off of them again. Ferrari gambled on staying out on hard tires when the rain hit. Turns out it rained a lot harder than the predictions were saying it would, and they realized that they had made a horrible mistake. So they had to pit under racing conditions rather than a safety car, and they wound up, much like their qualifying, Ferrari had a very disappointing day in the final results.
Yeah, and I wrote down one time I looked up, and they were coming out of one of these safety cars, and there was still plenty of water on the track, and they were going 203 miles an hour in the wet.
That is really what you got to consider. And I mean, obviously you saw, like, again, if you're a newbie, you saw the highs and lows of international motorsport today. Hadjar, that was a sportsman who just managed to make the 100-meter team, you know what I mean? Or just managed to make the team, as it were, his first time in Formula One. And he's dashed on the formation lap of all things in front of 400,000 people and millions around the world. That's the highs and lows of motor racing. But also that was a good example, and so was Alonso, that even the mighty can fall. And Sainz the same. I mean, these are very experienced. I mean, Sainz won the race last year, and he was out before it started here.
Yeah,
right. And how about Anthony Hamilton?
That was a wonderful...
Giving Hadjar a great big hug and say, look, kid, it's all right. It's embarrassing, but stuff happens.
It's so funny because the cameras were on him, and I was saying to John, he's crying and all the rest of it. And I kept looking ahead of him because there was a camera behind him. And Formula One, the guys were all staring at him. And I was like, God, somebody should go there and give him a hug.
Yeah, you said that before it happened. Yeah.
And then it was Anthony Hamilton. I thought that was really poetic. As a guy who knows those trials and tribulations, what better guy to put his arm around you and say, hey, you got this.
Yeah. This is going to happen, especially on a day. And he had to feel better. I mean, guys like Sainz and Alonso crashing out as well.
Yeah.
So that's got to make him feel better.
But,
hey, Hey, guys, we need to get in a quick word from our sponsor. Let me do this real quick. Even if you think AI is a bit overhyped, it's suddenly everywhere, from self-driving cars to molecular medicine to business efficiency. If it's not in your industry yet, it is coming fast. But AI needs a lot of speed and computing power. So how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? Time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a blazing fast and secure platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, plus all for your machine learning workloads. OCI costs 50% less for compute and 80% less for networking, so you're saving a pile of money. Thousands of businesses have already upgraded to OCI, including Vodafone, Thomson Reuters, and Sono AI. Right now, Oracle is offering to cut your current cloud bill in half if you move to OCI. For new U.S. customers with minimum financial commitment, offer ends March 31st. See if your company qualifies for this special offer at oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. But yeah, guys, that was just an amazing start to the season, right? I mean, you never know what you're going to get in the rain, and that one delivered. The crazy thing is that we never knew what was going, what weather we were going to get. And I love it's so wonderfully Formula One when they say, we have rain coming in 6 laps for 1.5 laps.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way you guys can predict that stuff.
I have to say, though, two things I'd like to point out. What a drive from Antonelli.
Yes.
And just there was one great tweet from Autosport. Raikkonen on debut P13 to P6. Antonelli on debut P16 to P5. So he's already been compared to a Ferrari world champion, but a great drive from Antonelli. I was on board with him on the F1 TV,
multi-view. The new multi-view. Yeah, that's cool, by the way.
They had the gyroscopic camera on him, so you could see, it went with him. And every angle. And he was adjusting he was getting sideways all the time. So good. The other flip side of that is, here we go again. Ferrari, wrong tires, wrong time. Hamilton points it out. Hamilton clearly struggling with his engineer to get some simpatico, as the Italians would say, because he just wasn't happy with what he was getting. That's natural. That'll take time in a normal race, but this was particularly tough for Hamilton because he's trying to do the best job he can. But it wasn't a good showing by Ferrari's strategy at all. If they'd have stayed out on those dry tires, they could have been on the podium.
Bob, how many times did Hamilton say, "I've got this," or "leave me alone"?
Yeah,
right. He said, leave me to it," or something like that. Yeah, and then as Jonathan said, after they decided they finally had to pit, you heard Hamilton say, "I thought you said it wasn't going to rain very hard."
Yeah.
You put us in a really bad spot here.
Yeah, I think Hamilton's going to be. I would love to be a fly on the wall at Maranello on Monday when he gets up to give his Pricey of.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to do it in Shanghai.
Yeah, he'll be doing it in Shanghai. Yeah, true.
Yeah, I was thinking when they said driver of the day, we were talking about Antonelli right before that. I was thinking, could it be? And then I thought, no, Lando was pretty amazing.
That was a brilliant drive. And when you think about the bigger picture of what Lando said about losing last year and how he comes to the table more prepared. I said at the beginning of the race, it's elbows out for both Oscar and whoever gets the ascendance between now and, Australia and China. For example, you could get to the end of China and Norris could have a 20-point lead or a 12-point lead. And suddenly the impetus is gone with Piastri.
Yeah. Yeah, when they went to Zach Brown in mid-race for him on the pit wall to interview him, he was not prepared to talk about that. I mean, for one, he
didn't want to.
Dead air for a few seconds. And he was saying we were making decisions, but he did not want to talk about that at all.
Can't blame him.
I'm checking the F1 TV post-race show just to see if our friend Chris Medland is joining them, because he's supposed to be. I just looked. I don't see him yet. Maybe
one word for Yuki Tsunoda. He was having such a great weekend, and in the end finishes 12th. Real shame.
Yeah.
Lawson, disaster. I mean, across the board.
Yeah.
I felt for him. Again, the mistake.
Same with Doohan.
Yeah. Doohan's the worst, actually. Lawson's pretty safe where he is, I think. I mean, anybody in those conditions. I mean, he made the same exact move as Hadjar, same place. But yeah, Doohan, I mean, that is just awful for him.
Yeah, but listen to these. Lance Stroll in 6th, Nico Hulkenberg in 7th.
That's amazing.
Yep. Albon finished 4th. And who else in the points that I was surprised at? They kind of swished around right there towards the end, but those are amazing.
How long is it since, I think they scored more points today than they scored in the entire season.
Scored 6 today and 4 last season. That's right. That's right. More today than all season last year. What were you going to say, Bob?
I think a lot of there's two things that come to mind when looking at guys toward the back there who wound up with pretty decent performances. One was DRS, which, as we heard over and over during the broadcast, has a huge effect here. Yeah. And the other was the wave-by rules under the yellow flag. When a safety car comes out, they let the lap cars go by and get back on the tail of the field on the lead lap, which made, I think, a lot of guys' drives maybe look a little better than they otherwise would have.
Yeah.
If they stayed one or more laps down. This whole race reminds me, my first Australian Grand Prix was in Adelaide in 1989, and it was very much a race like this. Pouring down rain. Alain Prost refused to drive after crashing in the first attempt to start the race. Ayrton Senna and Martin Brundle came together in a really iconic bit of video where the Brabham of Brundle looms suddenly out of the spray and crashes into the back of Senna's McLaren. All kinds of attrition, wet, dry, on and on and on. And finally, Terry Boutsen won the race for Williams. So I was getting all kinds of deja vu watching it come down in Melbourne.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yep. Oh, let's see. What else did we miss here? Oh, we talked about a great race for Lando, of course, but George Russell and combined with Antonelli's
means they lead the championship.
That's right. They're leading the constructors. Yep,
that's right.
It's just by a few points, but yeah.
Yeah, I wondered what would happen with Mercedes today, and they kind of were not as they weren't mentioned as much in terms of their chances, and I'm intrigued to see what kind of a car they've actually got. These conditions don't tell us everything we need to know, obviously, and China may be a better understanding for us on who sits where.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what? Let's double back on that point about Mercedes. Russell gets 15. Antonelli gets 10. So they have 25. But McLaren has Norris with 25 points and Piastri with 2. So they have 27. I think McLaren leads the championship.
Oh, okay.
No,
totally unofficial.
Yeah, no, it's actually up right now. Here, let me check real quick because team standings. You are correct. McLaren, Mercedes.
Are you doubting, Bob?
Yep, 27-25. You're right.
What? Okay, good night.
Yes, you are correct.
Tip your waiter. I'll be here all week.
There you go.
That's
Can you come back next week?
I know
China?
what it was because when I was calculating it, Piastri was either in 11th or 10th. He would have beat him in 10th. But anyway. All right. Well, on that note, we need to get a quick break in, regroup, and we'll be back after these messages. All right. Let's see who's on YouTube. Alex is here. 4 teams in the top 10. I'm excited to see Williams appears to have real performance in the car, at least for the moment.
That, to be honest, is one of the big stories out of this weekend. I mean, Williams are back. I'm back in a really good position too.
You know what? After all we've heard James Vowels and how we've heard it so much.
It seemed like hyperbole, didn't it?
Yeah, because he's been so impressive to us, and now look, his resume was brilliant.
He was the strategist for Mercedes for many years. He was basically expected to replace Toto Wolff when if Toto hung it up.
Yeah.
So, no question about it. That is a fantastic story.
Hey. Andy P said something. He said the new F1 TV tier has some kinks to work out. Kept freezing on me all weekend. It did me too, Andy. But you know what? I think it may be. I think it may be PC resources.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you're gonna have to have.
You put an extra quarter in the meter, man.
I know, because Jonathan just got a brand new laptop and he had no problem at all. And my older laptop, I was struggling with it. But I did struggle all weekend, even on my desktop at home. I couldn't do. I could literally only have that running, and if I didn't touch anything else, it was working. But I think it's a resource thing. It may be. I don't know, because I've got pretty good fiber kind of internet, Google Fiber. Oh, let's see. Alex, on to China. No rain forecast there.
Yeah, good point.
Andy P, the Vowels effect is real. Yes.
Yeah, no question. There is a belief now at Williams, and I think I was reading about their numbers now. They've gone from like 800 people to 1,500.
Williams.
Yeah. It's
and
dramatic.
This is a huge thing for Vowels, because this is proof of concept.
Yeah.
Vowels was saying we're going to get there, we're going to get there.
All right, coming back.
Come by two cars in the top 10 and one in the top 5.
I'm George Russell, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, can help you cut your cloud bill in half if you act by May 31st. See if you qualify for half off at oracle.com/formula. All right, checking in. Chris is still not with us yet. We'll hope to grab him here. And Casey, keep an eye out in case he sends an interview, just in case. Let's see. What did we miss, gentlemen, on the taking a look at the final standings for today? I want to see if we missed any particulars. And let me just run down it real quick here. Lando Norris with the win, followed by Max Verstappen, George Russell, Alexander Albon, Kimi Antonelli, Lance Stroll, Nico Hulkenberg, Charles Leclerc, Piastri in 9th, Lewis Hamilton in 10th, Gasly, Tsunoda, Ocon, and Behrman were the last cars that were running, and DNFs were Lawson, Bortoletto, Alonso, Sainz, Doohan, and Isaac Hadjar.
Kind of felt for Gasly. I mean, he was having such a solid weekend, as I mentioned, running down the grid, better and better and better in each session. And then he got out there and he was, duking it out in the points, and suddenly fell out when the Ferraris attacked and Piastri came charging back through the field and so on. So that was tough.
I think
we mentioned Tsunoda early. Mm-hmm.
Well, I was just going to say, I was thinking that would be another team that we need to watch in dry weather. I mean, look, there were so many wild card intangibles today that they've had good pace.
Yeah, so it's really hard to get a real understanding. I mean, we've had testing, which was, again, not very clear. Nobody I think what we saw on the grid, i.e. the grid for this race, was what we saw in testing.
Yeah.
We knew that McLaren was strong, except for everybody shot by Ferrari not pulling it off in Q3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially as McLaren almost blew it.
Speaking of Ferrari, what about them going wheel to wheel and then touching Leclerc and Hamilton? Battling there late in the race.
Well, and also, yes, that was really kind of cool because Hamilton,
it was a pass by Leclerc of Hamilton.
It was a great pass by Leclerc and saying, "I am Mr. Ferrari." Another pass that didn't get sort of shown until the end was Piastri passing Hamilton and clipping his front right wing and taking it off effectively, the little end plate there, on the pass at 9, excuse me.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, there was contact in both of those passes that we just talked about.
Yeah, so that's Piastri getting up to 9th on the last lap.
Yeah. Okay, Chris Medland has caught up with James Vowels. The timing, if he had just done it 5 minutes ago, would have been absolutely perfect, but we will take it. So let's hear this James Vowels after the race.
James, we spoke to you on the way to the grid, and you said it could be chaotic and that you were there to take your chances. You took them today with a 4th place for Alex.
I don't think there's a question in there. Yes.
Thank you for your time. How do you feel?
Just over the moon. I'm so pleased for us, for the team, for everyone that's just worked incredibly diligently hard across the last 12, 24 months to bring us to where we are today. And I think we have to reflect that the conditions helped us a bit, but we were racing on merit out there for good points.
Yeah, we saw obviously like you were dicing with Yuki for a while. Pierre was kind of in the mix. You had the Ferraris around you. How hard though was it to manage the race? I mean, sadly you only had to focus on one car, but still even getting those calls right with one car. How tough was that?
Yeah, it's very tough. You saw, I mean, whenever a field splits the way it does there on multiple decisions, that's tough. And the reality is Carlos was a key part of this. For those that didn't see, he came up to the pit wall, he was by my side, and we were just chatting things through. And he looked at the radar, looked at the conditions, went, you're going to have to stop. You won't stay out. You will spin off in the last few corners. Absolutely bang on. And that sort of just simple piece of information drives you towards the right goal. Well done to the team. All the pit stops were fantastic and the strategy was on point. And it's just great to see it all come together.
Yeah, would you sign up for 12 points on the board from the first race weekend before coming here?
100% I would have done. I think there's lots to be proud of. Our job now is to keep building on that and going forward.
And then just a word on Carlos. What was the explanation? Because it looked like a strange spin behind the safety car.
I think you're right. Very slow speed. All I can really tell you is it was a part throttle upshift. On the end of the upshift, there was a little bit more torque than he was expecting, which put him into a situation where the rear came round. He also had a wheel on a white line there, and the white lines are awful here. So I don't think any one by itself would have been a problem. Both together, it looks like, caused the issue.
So I guess he missed out on some learning there, but you go again in China next weekend. How excited are you just to kind of keep this momentum rolling after such a strong start?
It's why I do this job. It's absolutely brilliant. I'm looking forward to seeing how we perform in China, then going on from there.
Well done today, and good luck in China.
Thanks very much.
Well done, Chris. Even if you aren't actually asking a question, you're still getting answers. I do want to read the Constructors' Championship. Bob and I were talking about that. Bob corrected me live on the air. Appreciate that, Bob. McLaren Mercedes in first with 27. Mercedes 25 in second. And then Red Bull with 18 in third. Williams in fourth. That's the one that I wanted to say, that with those 12 points that Chris just described. Aston Martin in fifth with 8. Kick Sauber in sixth with 6 points. Ferrari down in seventh with 5 points. And then Alpine, RB, or Racing Bulls, and Haas with no points. But yeah, Williams in fourth place.
Yeah, and especially as it's Albon as well. I mean, Sainz came in, in a blaze of glory, as it were, and was fastest in testing. And so what about Albon? And so, like you say, that was a really steady drive from Alexander Albon. When all around, if you like, were losing theirs. It was. And I love what James Vowels said then about the fact that, Sainz didn't just skulk off going, right, well, that was a bad day at the office.
Yeah, right.
He got on the pit wall and started saying, hey, this is when you need to come in. I mean, he's a team player. And I think that's the beauty of where Williams are right now.
Yeah, for sure. And like we said, it is. It's really not that surprising. Hey, fastest lap. I know there's no such thing as a fastest lap point anymore, but any guesses on who would have had it?
Yeah, wasn't it Antonelli?
Nope, it was Lando Norris.
Yeah.
But the second
Norris.
Fastest lap is the one that's the most interesting.
Go on.
Liam Lawson.
Yes, I did see him do one fastest lap. Yeah.
Not that these really count on a day like today, but still, we'll give Liam. He
not
have something.
Not
right?
a good day for the rookies, and I'll put Lawson in that for now. He's not really a rookie. But yeah, a tough day to start for doing and Hadjar. I really, that stands out to me as being, they'll bounce back. And in fact, the fact that China's next week is actually a good thing. Get back to it.
Yeah. You mean because it's in 1 week, not 2 weeks. Yes. Get right back on the horse, as they say.
Exactly.
Then they get a week off, and then they do a triple header.
Yeah.
Surprising, I guess. Sainz and Alonso, these veteran drivers crashing out. I'm just thinking about the crashes themselves. Alonso's looked.
That's a very rare one. But it was when you see it, it was a classic turn 6.
Yeah,
hit the white line, nowhere to go.
Yeah, it was interesting there at the beginning of the race. They were talking about, hey, the very first issue was the white paint.
Yeah.
On the white paint, you can't accelerate or change direction on that white paint because it's a lot slicker.
Yeah,
and you think that's what caught Alonso? You said?
Yeah, I think so. All through practice and F2 and F3, people were cutting that because they've moved it. Remember, they moved it closer.
Yeah,
and so everybody was trying to sort of straight line it without touching the gravel. And that's kind of where Alonso was, but there's also a white line there, and he didn't get into the gravel, but he got onto that white line, and yeah, you saw it. It just spun up and spun him out.
Hey, Bob, I know it's almost 3 a.m., but for you, but I just want to ask you, what do you think about the strategy calls today? I mean, I with your experience, to me, I was just like, it's almost just to throw a dart at the dartboard at the end there. Do you get on wets? Do you stay on, inner slicks, whatever? What do you think?
Well, I think it was interesting to watch and incredibly complex decisions being made at the time. Keep in mind, there's a lot of people involved in making these decisions. You got, engineer and strategist and team principals and 6 or 7 people on the pit wall and a whole bunch over in the garage. I don't think there were any blunders as such, but there were a lot of calls that just didn't work out. You gamble, you roll the dice, like Ferrari staying out on slicks and losing ground. Liam Lawson, they put him on medium slicks and he crashed out. So, even the best have those days when, it just doesn't go right. And as we say time and time again, rain changes everything, and wet, dry races like this one really put the cat among the pigeons, as David Hobbs used to say. It's just, you look around the garage and say, okay, what do you think we ought to do? Show of hands. It's a little more complex than that.
Well, but, it is a day where...
Keep in mind...
Go on.
Well, how much wet weather running did these teams get in testing? 0. I think some of them in private, doing their video days had some rain, but I think there was a real dearth of information about what these tires would do in a given set of conditions. If it had rained, Friday or Saturday a little bit, gave them some wet track experience, we might have seen an entirely different race. But this rain was heavy and, unprecedented on the weekend, and that that made it an even more difficult decision.
Did I see Zach Brown with a high-tech stick his hand out the window, check for rain at one point?
Yeah.
I think I saw that, right?
I think
he did. Yep.
Well,
sometimes it comes down to that. I mean, at that point, literally, I was like, throw a dart at a dartboard. What do you do? Because how do you know? No one knows, no matter what the engineers say when they jump on the radio and give that prediction that I was talking about earlier. All right, we are just about out of time. So next week, just conveniently, I am not going to be with us just for the middle of the night broadcast.
How did you manage that?
It was something I set up with my daughter in college, a daddy-daughter visit day 6 months ago. And so, they
have internet.
They do have internet, but we're going to be partying until late into the morning. So I won't be sober. Let's put it that way. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Does she still want Dad hanging around?
Hey, she's the one who invited me up there. So, all right. Well, thanks, everybody. I know it's 2 a.m. and rambling on about stuff. We thank you for tuning in, for those of you that are still awake, and we really appreciate it. But we will be back next Sunday, and if you want to find out all about our schedule and more about us, go to speedcitybroadcast.com.
Happy trails.
Thanks, Bob Varsha. Thanks, Jonathan Green, Chris Medland. Talk to you next week.
Cheers. Yep.
Bum, bum.